Hi, I'm Al McRobbie at Sailing Company, and this is the second part of our Elexol demo. And in the first part, we talked about some of the Ethernet boards that can be hooked up to some of the accessory boards, and we've got a little demonstration right here using a number of these. Two things I want to go over before we start firing up any of this equipment is that I want to make clear that there's actually two different kinds of Ether IO24 boards, and I want to make sure that people understand the differences between them. This is a plain old Ether IO24R board, and it supports UDP type of communication over the Ethernet. So it doesn't have all the features of the latest boards, which are these here, which are the Ether IO24 TCP boards. And the newer boards have a number of different features on them, and I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but one of them is that each of the three ports can be configured either as an I/O port, an SPI port, or an I2C port. That's one of the things that can be done. But the other things that can happen is that the I/O ports can be monitored from within, and if a state change occurs on one of the input pins, it'll send a message, or it can be programmed to send a message out. The I/O pins can be monitored from another component on the same local area network, and these boards can also be controlled by another member on the local area network remotely. And that's kind of an interesting thing. That's one of the things we've got set up to do with this demo, is that we're going to actually control this board by sending commands to this one here, and then you'll see something else happen on one of these accessory boards. But that's one of the things that's very interesting about these. The other thing here is that this unit contains an onboard web interface. And so using the Java applet, you can actually program these things. What I'm doing here, if you look at the screen here on my computer, what we have here is we have their test and programming utility version 16. And what I'd like to do now is just spend a little bit of time going over the application here, because it does highlight a number of the interesting features that are available on this. Here's what the unit looks like right here, the application. And right at the very top, you have a number of controls here that have to do with either finding the modules that are on the network or programming a selected target module. If we pull this down here, you can see that I've got two modules on my local area network. One's the number 10 board, the other one's the number 11 here. The number 11 for a demo is going to be used for controlling, and the number 10 is going to be kind of like the slave. All right, so we're going to leave that on number 11. Look at the tabs that are here. There's four basic tabs: test control, programming options, auto scan setup, and EEPROM values. The boards contain EEPROMs, so you can write instructions into the EEPROM that will allow the boards to come up in a certain automatic configuration when they're powered up. In other words, you can set each of the input-output lines to either be an input or an output. You can set pull-up resistors, you can set threshold values, you can set Schmidt trigger operation if you want to. Let's look at the programming options tab next. Okay, here's where you can put in a discrete or a specific IP address and a port number. And you can see here we have also tabs for power up value, power up direction, power up pull up, power up threshold, and power up Schmidt. So those are all the features that you can use there. The next major tab is the auto scan setup, which is what we're using to have one board control another. And this is where you put in the target board's IP address and port number. You can also change the scan rate. You can also configure the ports to do what you want them to do. Last tab is the EEPROM, so you can look at what's actually, what values are set in the EEPROM. So let's go back over here to test controls, and we're going to, first of all, show just the generic operation of the board where you can send a control to something. and have it control one of the accessory boards. So we're going to be sending a command to this board here, and it's going to pull on a relay here on this combo board. The relay is going to pull in. It's being powered by another source right here. We're just simply going to turn on a lamp, and we're going to monitor whether the lamp's working or not through a sampler resistor here, which is the voltage on it is being applied to one of the input lines on the combo, or the input side of the board, where there's an opto isolator chip right there. So if the board functions properly, we'll get an LED indication on the one channel for the relay and another channel for the response to make sure that we've got current going. So we're going to hit that, and what we can see is we have a response for the relay's turning on. We're monitoring the current, and so we're sending a readback indication back to the application here, and you can see that I've got on line 0 here, I have actually sensed that that is actually working. If there's something else going wrong, for instance, I lose a power supply right here, you can see that this line is changed to 0. Okay, let's power up the power supply again. Here we go, we're back on working again. So that's just a simple example of how that can work. All right, so we'll turn that off. The other thing that we can do that I mentioned is that you can control the output pins of one board by sending a command to it from another board. So that's what we've got set up here. This is the master board here, and this is our target or slave board right here. And what I have is I'm using one of the push button slide switch boards just to send a bit over to this board and have a response come out on one of these Darlington transistor boards that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so we can do that just here. I'm just going to hold down some of the push buttons here. There's an indicator LED on this board that says things are working, and then there's also the response that we're seeing over here on this board. So, you know, you can do that, you know, of course, right along. Your loads and so forth would be hooked up to the terminal strip, but they would actually be controlled. If I had anything working on that, that's what we would see. But here's the response that we're looking for at any rate. So this is pretty interesting to do, and it works pretty reliably. So, and I can't overemphasize again the quality of these boards is really quite excellent, and they have a little bit of information on the back as to the MAC address and so forth, and the warranty information on them. So that's just a couple of the things that I wanted to mention about the Ether I/O line here. And if you have any questions about operation, feel free to give me a call. Each one of these boards, as I mentioned earlier, has a data sheet or a user manual with it. And of course, for the Ether I/O boards, there's quite a comprehensive manual and some application notes for how to use them. Plus, on the Elexol website, there's a support page where you can find further information, or if you have questions about programming, or if you run into any problems that the staff there at Elexol can help. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've been able to see a little bit of what these boards can do. Actually, they're quite versatile, and it's just limited by your imagination what you need to do with them. All right, so thanks for watching.